it's not. I would not say they are decentralized. I would say they are highly centralized in different locations.
Right. It helps businesses get better because there's profits to be
Totally.
made.
Yeah.
If no one's profiting from the centralization, what is their incentive to innovate on Bitcoin? And that's another question.
Yeah.
I think people don't like to be regulated by people they don't like, people not like them.
Right.
That's why people have the problem with centralization. If
Well, this is going to become a very, very interesting problem
Yeah.
for the U.S. government to solve because 5 years ago, it was everyone's belief that we were going to be globalized. There was absolutely no other way around it. Here we are, 2023, and we are so far removed from globalization. There's zero chance this happens. So now you have a hyper decentralized geopolitical world. It's gotten much more fractured than when you were born. I mean, it's just gotten so fractured now.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have what, 5 or 6 different regions telling us how these new properties and new asset classes are treated. That creates a whole set of problems that you start looking at. Investors will start moving around the planet to go and sit in the geopolitical arena that serves them the best.
I wouldn't want to be in their position trying to pivot and regulate things that have never existed before. I mean, these are new problems.
Yeah.
They've never had to regulate a decentralized currency.
That's right.
There's a lot of tough questions that need to be addressed when you're doing that. Same thing with AI. They never had to deal with anything like that before. You had to reform the education system quickly. I wouldn't want to be in the regulator's shoes, but it's definitely, you're right. On a global perspective, you need to move quickly and make a lot of right calls, or you get left in the dust.
Yep. Yep. And let the markets work. I mean, I do believe in the markets. I mean, the cool thing about blockchain is it's all available for sight.
Yeah.
This myth about it being opaque and not available, if you were ever going to commit a crime, last place to do it is with Bitcoin.
Right.
Last place to do it is on blockchain.
That's a pretty common misconception. And if you send a Bitcoin transaction to me and I get arrested for, say, selling drugs, they can't trace that back to you. I mean, there's a Bitcoin transaction ID, but can you tie that transaction ID to your wallet?
I think that people are really confused about how easily it is to track exactly who did that trade. I can't go into great detail because through Node 40, the business that I've invested pretty heavily in, deals with people like TRM, Elliptic, Chainalysis, MasterCard, Visa, these big forensic type firms.
Right.
And I would advise anyone that if you've done anything by accident that was naughty, then, do the sign of the cross 3 times, say 3 Hail Marys, and clean your act up because you're probably going to get a pass. If you keep doing it, you are really, really in trouble because they're already tracking you. So there's nothing you're going to be able to hide from. And these people that, this is part of the problem that we have in the digital asset industry, is that you have people that came in this industry from 12 years ago, 5 years ago, and their whole agenda was to escape the man and to play dodgy. Like, if you live in this country, I think you got to pay your taxes, and we had a bridge collapse this weekend, right? Like, our infrastructure is well past its buy-sell date, well over 50 years, almost every bridge. The dams are old. You can't not have a tax to help build infrastructure.
Right.
Now, we can vote for the people who take our tax dollars and then send them to the Ukraine and fight a war using the Ukraine as our front man, but in reality, the U.S. is fighting a war with Russia, trying to put them in their place. I hate my money going there. I hate my tax money going to the Saudis, who then go kill a bunch of Yemens and the countries I don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
But these
the
are
game is
innocent
try
people.
And pay as little bit in taxes as you possibly can. But Uncle Sam is good at getting his dollar.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the regulators are going to come in, and they're going to figure it out. There's no way that those transactions are going to be untraceable.
Well, so far, I mean, here's an interesting statistic, and one of the reasons that I invested in Node 40, 48 million people in the United States have checked the box on the IRS form stating that they own a digital asset. 896,000. Okay, 896,000 of those 48 million have paid taxes. So the IRS is pissed off that people aren't paying, right? They're withholding. And again, I think you're going to be given a pass for the past.
Yeah.
But the future is going to be, once you had to check the box, you need to understand if you're living in the United States, or in fact even a tax haven like Puerto Rico, the Cayman Islands, DR, wherever, you're going to be expected to pay. You're going to be required to provide the forensic history on your own, the proof. Like in this game, you're going to have to prove what you did. It's a big button of mine because I actually buy Bitcoin for one reason, and it is an options play for my family when I'm gone.
Yeah.
When I'm dead. If I'm wrong about Bitcoin and it goes to zero, then my children start out the way I started out, with nothing. If I'm right and Bitcoin actually takes up just 0.5% of the global marketplace, then Bitcoin, my daughter is now at 35. That'll be in 20 years, right? 20 years. My daughters are going to have to prove, wherever they're living, that what Daddy did from 2016 all the way through 2000, do you know how many wallets those coins are going to have moved through in exchanges? If the accounting and tax professionals and legal people that are helping my children don't fully understand this story, and that I didn't provide, along with my seed phrases and keys,
Right.
a full history of what I did, like the narrative. That's the first thing I did with Node 40. I said, I need to see a deep P&L. If a guy owns one Bitcoin over a year, or he owns 1 billion transactions in 30 different tokens, and he's trading daily, like $50 and $100 spreads, they need a full P&L.
Yeah.
A full narrative of what they did in every bucket, man. If the bucket was in Saudi Arabia, cool, here's your Dubai. If there's a U.S.-centric bucket, whatever. If there's just token buckets, NFTs, BTC, and they are in time buckets, right? Hey, what'd you do in 2016? What'd you do in 17? So we're so early in this space. The tools have not been built to provide the investors.
Yeah.
Even some of you speculators. I think the guys messing around with tokens are speculators. I'm not a speculator. I'm an investor.
Right.
So when the price of this stuff goes down, I buy more. I don't get scared thinking that Mr. Gensler is going to just stop BTC. That would be impossible for the United States to do.
Right.
Can they stop the tokens? Sure, they can.
Right.
They probably should stop most of these tokens.
I'm excited to get into that. And you're on the cutting edge of that forensic technology with Node 40. It's a fun old entrepreneur saying, or story rather, about the gold rush in California. So all the people selling the gold, but the people that made a lot of the money were the ones selling the picks.
That's right.
And with Node 40, that's essentially what you're doing.
That's right. It's a picks and shovels business. I love the picks and shovels part of the business.
Me too. You said if Bitcoin goes to zero, your daughters start where you started. How much of your net worth do you currently have invested in cryptocurrency?
As a percentage?
As a percentage, or as a number, whatever you feel more comfortable sharing.
Well, let me give you a different stat that I think is really interesting. So
Sure.
I'm 65. I do a bunch of my banking with Truist, and the guy that in these banks, they all have the ultra wealth managers, right?
Yes.
And the guy that manages my position, they were kind enough to get me into the ultra wealthy group. I don't actually believe I deserve that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'm in it. He manages 22 clients. And one of the things I do really well is I learn really well. And I know how to ask reasonably good questions. The first thing I asked Brad was, how many of your clients have an investment in crypto? And the answer was about 17%. Whoa, that is common with the U.S. Population currently, 12 to 20%.
Would you consider that low or high? 17%.
I don't think it matters. Okay, what comes after this really matters.
Please.
I then asked him, where am I on the pecking order of your ultra wealthy people? He's like, oh, you're the smallest guy. I expected that. Okay, I expected to be the smallest guy in terms of total dollars. I said, now how do I rate in that 22 relative to the size of my investment in digital assets? He said, dude, you're the biggest guy by far.
Yeah.
That didn't surprise me.
Yep.
The next question is, of the other 15 guys who have not invested in digital, how many have studied it? 100%. How many of them are like building the case to their family off? All of them. Okay, so they just haven't come in yet. They are coming. And so like, I've been able to look at my life over a long period of time and go, oh yeah, I'm always 2 or 3 years early. Like, it makes sense to me. I'm in a weather volatility that other people just can't stomach. But it doesn't bother me because I'm not overextending myself.
Right.
Like, it's not my house. I'm not going to lose my plane if it all goes to shit. I don't do leverage. Do
you believe in it so wholeheartedly that that's one of the things keeping you in it through all the volatility?
Well, if you look, I bought Bitcoin at $8,000 initially, and I bought a slug of gold at $1,100. All the same, 2016. I bought much more gold than I bought Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
I sold gold at $2,000. Man, that's not a great investment. 1,100, 2,000. 10 years, man, that's not really that impressive,
Yeah.
okay? I held on to my money. I mean, my currency didn't, like, decay. Once I bought the Bitcoin, it got me interested enough. I don't think the amount I bought got my attention. I believe in, like, I like poker, but I only like poker if it's a game where people are nervous about whether they're going to play that next hand. Like penny poker, no, I'm not interested.
Got to keep you out of our poker games here.
Why? No, it'd be good. It'd be good. But so I then read the white paper. Yeah. Okay, and then I started using Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I started playing with it. And I think once you have enough experiences with it, you study the white paper and you see the differences. Look, it's a 16-minute read. So if you're in this industry and you haven't read the white paper, like if I find out somebody at Node 40 that works for me has not read the white paper, I will fire them. Okay, I think that's like, it's not cool. Okay, this is an industry. You need to understand it. Do I really understand blockchain? Probably not, because I'm not a technologist, but I understand the thesis of blockchain. Yeah. And I have enough contacts that I can ask them, hey, this algorithm, is it really going to work? Have you tested it? Blah, blah, blah. So I read the white paper. When I read the white paper, I'm like, whoa, this solves a lot of problems. I don't move to, this is going to displace the U.S. dollar construct.
Right.
Over what time frame? Because I will guarantee you the U.S. dollar will fail.
Every currency has, right?
Every currency has. And you can say that the question is, what's the time horizon? Right. We're well over 100 years now. It's the second oldest currency in the world. The first one's the UK pound, and I still don't understand why it trades at a premium. There's funky things that go on in the world. Like, why does the UK pound sterling trade at a 23% premium to the US dollar, and the euro trades at a premium? These are two broken countries, right?
Yeah.
Europe, it's not a country. That's part of the problem.
Right.
Okay. They're trying to treat it as a country. The Brits never even got into the euro because they didn't surrender their ability to print those beautiful pink notes. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see the city of London move into this Bitcoin space so aggressively now that this crazy political system we have that seems to be picking winners and losers. If you think you're going to hold this back from Dubai, London, Japan, and Hong Kong, they'll take it all, guys. I mean, Canary Wharf was set up to do financial trading, right? They have the right language, the right type of people. I mean, if you've traded electricity, natural gas, FX, oil, equities, bonds, you can provide every service that any digital asset investor could possibly want. and you can do it in Dubai at an extremely low tax rate. The U.S. has an ability to be a leader here. It's choosing not to, just because I think it was discovered they were sitting on their hands, maybe even participating with some of these crimes. Okay, and FTX is a crime. I mean, it's a crime no less than what Enron went through, than what WorldCom did, that Madoff did. I mean, it's just a Ponzi scheme, total Ponzi scheme. Celsius the same. You know, to the people that are listening, if someone's going to pay you 13% interest on something,
right,
in a zero interest rate market, you might want to ask why.
Yeah.
And how. It was very clear to me Celsius was going to blow up.
I have a friend who went from over $100 million invested in Luna and wrote it all the way down to like $100,000. And that's a case where the algorithm failed.
Yeah.
Now, the white paper, the Satoshi white paper with Bitcoin, you believe in the foundation of that, of what it can be, of the possibilities. What do you think is the final stone that's going to push the other 22 people in your ultra wealthy group to finally take the leap and invest in Bitcoin? What are they waiting for?
I think most people are not comfortable being in front.
Mm-hmm.
I have an old saying, and it's a bit of an irritation point for me, having grown up in business, which has really been my education, right? At 21, I went straight into business and got a really cool job and learned from some great mentors. I mean, funny, the name of your podcast. I think I've never met anyone who's been fired for the deal they did not do.
Right.
And I find that to be like, it's painful for an entrepreneur and a commercial, for lack of a better word, assassin. Like, I will move everything I have on a view. Okay, it's a little over the top, a little crazy, but it's the kind of personality I am. I'm pretty comfortable. It served me really well my whole life. The sad thing is, you know, that $1 billion deal that turned into a $30 billion deal that nobody wanted to do, that deal didn't get done. Nobody got let off for it. So I think there's a world we live in where, you know, I'm not going to get fired if I'm just doing as well as the other guys.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, that's the problem. And I love Kathy Woods, because Kathy tells a story about Wall Street, which is, as long as you do just as well as the guy next door, you can show the consumer that you just did just about as good as everybody else.
Yeah.
That does not make a market where I'm happy paying somebody 30 bips every year on year, to give me financial advice. I mean, I could have just bought. I could have DCA'd into equities.
Right.
And done just as well, if not better.
And correct me if I'm wrong, my guess, and I'm not one of the ultra wealthy, but my guess is the mentality amongst those individuals, once they amass such a big fortune of wealth, it's more about protecting it, maintaining and steady growth, as opposed to the entrepreneur who's a little bit more comfortable with risk, who's always trying to 5x, 10x their wealth, and be on the cutting edge, such as yourself. You're a little bit more likely to take that bet, the possible 10x.
Well, it's going to get pretty boring if all you do is just sit it in a bank account.
Yeah.
You know, back to your question of, hey, when do other people move? I think, first off, they're going to move into the marketplace when it's clear. Like, the crypto industry, and this is about the only time I'll use the word crypto. I call it the digital revolution, or like, we are digitizing planet Earth. Okay, this is going to happen. Your phone, those phones drive me crazy. You're not doing it, but that's a digital phone now. It's not an analog phone. Everything we do now is going to be digitized, in my opinion. Okay, you're not going to use the usage of an automobile is about 4%. That means a boat must be what, 0.01%? Yeah. Cars and boats and homes should be Uberized. Okay, everything should be fractionalized and rented. And this crazy bad German guy or whatever kind of guy he is, Klaus, the world director, Klaus with a K. He says we will own nothing and rent everything and be happy about it. I actually agree with that, but for a different reason. He's saying it for control purposes,
Right.
but I'm saying it because we have technology today that we did not have that allow me to fractionalize assets. Not so much in how we sell them, but how we use them. And I mean, if you think about like all the tools in your toolbox, you never use them, man. Like I have every tool you can imagine, and they just sit there grabbing rust. Now, wouldn't it be cool if wouldn't it be efficient if I could go, hey, $100, bring the toolbox over, okay? And a truck shows up with every tool on the planet. And I just use the ones I need. When I need them, boom, gone.
We're getting closer. I mean, we've got Airbnb, we've got Turo for cars, we've got boat charter apps.
Turo's
Yeah.
Turo's awesome. I can rent any car in the world. Cheap cars, fancy cars, delivers it to my home, 3 days, 2 days, 2 hours.
Yeah, we're getting there. And it's technology, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you don't like the word crypto. Why?
Well, I think that BTC is not crypto. I think BTC is a philosophy and a proper rules-based form of money. The tokens that are being promoted look like currency to me. They don't, I'm not a regulator, but they look like currency, okay? Just like the dollars in my pocket, or just like the chips I get when I play poker with you or when I go to the casino. Now, a really great question for anybody that's ever been to Las Vegas or a casino is, hey, when do you lose your money in Las Vegas? And the answer is the moment you trade that currency that you controlled for plastic chips is the moment you lost your money. That's actually a lie because the currency, the paper, is not money. It is currency. So we have been really miseducated. These dollars are not, they are tokens for something that represents money, that can be produced over and over and over again, copied and reproduced. And in most cases in the United States and every central bank, they don't even produce the paper anymore. They just digitize the shit out of it.
Right. When they're printing money, it's not printing it. They're changing some buttons on a computer.
Totally.
It's crazy.
Totally. So I like Bitcoin should have its own categorization. It is, to me, an extremely true form of money. That does not mean that gold doesn't hold that same status. I think gold does hold that status. There's probably other assets that, like, if I owned a Picasso, should I protect it or should I just carry it around in my Range Rover? Would you look at that as a form of wealth and money? I think I could probably dump a Picasso pretty easy in any situation.
Yes.
Solid gold, Rolex watches, things of real great value that are limited in supply. These things tend to, we've bartered far longer than we've ever used currency. We've bartered as human beings a factor of many long before any central bankers were around, rules or regulations. So I see BTC as if we were to introduce BTC 15 years ago, 30 years ago, it had no relevance. We have the technology today. This thing right here can do so much that basically it's an elevator to anywhere I want to go in the universe.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to also trade something with you to either secure my reservation, like I'm getting ready to book a trip to the Caymans, and somebody's going to want a credit card. I like using credit cards because if the hotel doesn't meet my needs or I have some special problem, I can just call up the bank and go, hey, file a dispute, man. I couldn't do it. I had something outstanding. You cannot do that with moving gold or moving a Picasso or moving Bitcoin. Okay, those rules are, no, we're done. And I like those done markets where you and I transact. I give you something, you give me something, and there's no recourse unless there's a crime problem, right?
Yeah, that's a good argument for gold as a store of value. I don't know if it's a strong argument for gold as a means to transact. Because if I'm paying for my hotel in Bitcoin, and yeah, my room is covered in urine, and I have to go and file a dispute, there's nothing that I can do. Do you think that could be an issue for merchants actually using Bitcoin to transact?
Well, we're all over the place here on this conversation.
Yeah, we
This
are.
conversation could go on 5. This is what Greg was saying. Look, I think first off, the Bitcoin community should never have pushed out that they were going to try and compete with MasterCard and Visa. It's just
Right.
not real. Now, on that, if you are going to say you're going to compete with fiat, the thing you need to understand is that, yes, Visa and MasterCard do many tens of thousands of transactions a minute. None of them settle for 180 days. If Bitcoin does, I can't remember the blockchain rate, but if Bitcoin does 5 transactions an hour, 100% of those close. Okay? They're done. So the comparison between how many transactions Visa and MasterCard do versus Bitcoin is irrelevant. How many of them actually close, we're done, there is no reopening this transaction. So for me, so that's one issue. People will use credit cards and debit cards because the financial system gives the consumer a lot of latitude. Okay, they get to pay late. You get to pay late. You get extension on those terms, and you get to call in refunds and chargeback disputes.
Right.
Rights you do not have in the real world. So I don't think Bitcoin in the next 5 years should ever even be considered being used for small transactions. However, enterprise, like MicroStrategy, like Gary Cardone, I bought Node 40 with $3.5 million of digital assets, crypto, BTC and Ethereum, to be frank, the day of the Celsius meltdown, okay? And this is really, really important. Even you guys who are naysayers, just listen to the use case here, okay? I'm not a technology guy. I hate the whole API keys. You know, you throw too much at me, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to call the bank. 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, June 2022, I moved $3.5 million from 5 financial institutions to New York to Node 40. Took me less than 15 minutes to do all 5 transactions. The receiver, Perry Wooden, get him on his show, he'll tell you, all shows up within 2 minutes. We're completely done, okay? $12, and that wasn't so important to me. I would have paid $1,200, quite frankly. That doesn't bother me, paying the fees. What bothers me is having a secretary call me up and ask me if it's me, and hey, can we do this wire? I'm driving down the road at 100 miles an hour, and she's saying, hey, is the sort code this? Like, that's not security, okay?
Yeah.
And had I tried to do that transaction on a Saturday afternoon or a bank holiday, and any of that money would have been outside the United States, one, the transactions wouldn't have happened. Assuming they do open the transactions on a Saturday and allow me to do it, they will never do it. CBDCs aren't going to function on a Saturday, Sunday, and a bank holiday, so that's going to die. If I would have wire transferred those funds, they would have showed up to Perry on Wednesday. They showed up Perry 2 minutes after 2:32, man.
That's powerful.
Okay, that is a powerful use case, okay? So I see that as a use case where between me and Goldman, we can transfer crypto.
Right.
Whether it's tokens, stable coins, whatever. Now, what did my guy do? Immediately, he moves it into stable coins. Boom. He's in cash instantly on a Saturday. Now, until people do that, okay? Now, let me give you the other scenario. I sent $250 to my sister who's 76. She still hasn't figured out how to open it. Literally on her telephone, okay? And that's the problem with Bitcoin.
Right.
Okay? And maybe Lightning fixes this, but until my sister can do the $250 transaction and she doesn't have to be a whiz kid, she's not terrified
Yeah.
And like, we're not helping ourselves with the FTX sell. Like, we are all to blame for this, okay? Like, it's not just on Gary Gensler's back to fix it. You knew when you were investing, you were being a pig, right?
Yeah.
You knew it.
We're all a pig back then.
We're all a pig, okay? We're supporting scammy things
Yes.
until we stop. And that means, you know what? That is a bad protocol, okay? That is a bad. So now where I'm at, everything's a bad protocol unless it has a finite amount of coins that can be produced, and it has a thesis by which it operates under. And until then, I'm just going to stay away from all the other opportunities. If I'm late, I'll get in late, and I won't make as big of a return. I didn't buy Bitcoin at $300. I didn't buy it at $1,000, and I think at $25,000 today or $26,000, risk reward, it's a better trade today than it was when it was 300. We have much more clarity.
Yeah.
Okay? Much more clarity on what's going on.
Love it. Let's pivot for a second.
Sure.
The crypto talk is amazing. I'm very passionate about it. Back in 2021, I learned a ton about it. But you've been in a lot of different industries. Gary, you're a serial entrepreneur. You've been in energy. You've been in credit card fraud. And now seems like we're kind of going all in crypto. So I'd love to ask a couple questions to find out who is Gary Cardone, if that's okay.
Sure.
You live in St. Pete.
Yep.
Same city as me. We're here in our studio right now. I'd love to know, as a serial entrepreneur, someone who's amassed some wealth, some notability, why did you choose St. Pete?
I ended up here by accident. When I left London in 2002, came here to see my famous twin brother for a party, and ended up buying a house over the weekend, some old historic home. Went to L.A., and as I was redoing this house, some 13-year-old kid walked in with a gallon of gasoline and tried to burn it down.
Jesus.
It was in Bel Air, property in Bel Air. So I had to keep coming back here. And if you don't believe that having a large immigration society is good, I redid a house in L.A., did one here, same size homes. Took me 2.5 years to do this one. It took me 4 months to do the one in L.A. because it had so many Hispanic people willing to work, showed up at work. The white guys here, they never show up at work. And when they do, So anyway, I just kind of got stuck here, met a woman on an airplane. We started pretending like we were going to have babies. Then we built a business, and then we got married. Now, I was in Bel Air near Clearwater. Wasn't my ideal scene. Went down to St. Pete in 2019, right as COVID was happening. I have this weird sense about me. I'm like, hey, I need to go find the family a compound. Ended up in Tierra Verde and just fell in love with it. I should have bought every house out there I saw, and I knew they were underpriced, all of them.
Did you buy during COVID?
I bought it before COVID. I bought 2 of them down there. I should have bought 6.
Well, I imagine you did pretty well on that property value now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've done well, but like try to get out of them because now the interest rate market's completely different. But that was all acquired in the zero interest rate world.
Yep.
When the banks were throwing, I think the banks threw 140% loan to value to me.
Crazy.
Just so you're clear, I don't believe anyone should own a home, okay, including me. I can probably afford to own 1 or 2, but it's a horrible use of funds. It is an absolute horrible use of funds.
To clarify, horrible to own the home that you live in, or horrible to invest in real estate, single family, multifamily? Can you clarify a little bit there?
Well, yeah, but so to me, there's a lot of different types of real estate. I still have multi-dwelling. I like multi-dwelling at a entry point. I don't like $3,000, $4,000 a door.
Right.
I don't like $400,000 projects per door. Like those scare me. Grant and I were buying these in Arizona for like $40,000 a door, man. Now they're $400,000. I'm like, dude, I don't know who can afford that, right? Can the lady downstairs really afford $2,800 a month plus utilities plus? The world is going to go broke. Okay, like this money is not worth anything. You can't just keep making this money show up and it continues to hold the same value. It'd be like me bringing in, hey, you want a piece of gum? Yeah, I want a piece of gum. Good. Would you like 1,000 pieces of gum? No, dude, one's good. Like there's 999 of them. They're just not even valued at all.
The stats on how much money they printed over the past couple of years is staggering. It's disgusting.
40% of the entire money supply on the planet was produced in the last, call it 36 months. I mean, just go look at whose name's on them. Mm-hmm. You know, they're all going to be Steve Mnuchin, and y'all can blame Trump. It doesn't matter, dude. They're all the same. Okay, we're a printing press. Yeah. That's what we do. So what I'm saying about a home is I think a home sucks energy. I don't think it produces. Now, you're going to say, hey, Bitcoin doesn't produce anything either. You're right. You're right. It produces nothing. It doesn't even produce revenue, but what it should do is hold value. If there was only 3 of us invested in Bitcoin, I understand. You're probably right. Hey, look, big deal. Dude, there's 48 million people in the United States, somewhere between 320 to 400 million people on this planet that own Bitcoin that have decided today it's worth $26,000. That is a market by any stretch of the imagination, okay? If I go to the UK and want to trade electricity, there might be 40 players. This is 400 million players that have decided Bitcoin is worth something, that Ether's worth something, and then all the other coins. Like, if you really saw the population of people playing in these coins and you looked at their demographics, most people wouldn't be in these altcoins. Okay, if you look at the demographics of the people that are in Bitcoin, very different quality of player.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
the home, look, no one figures in the lifetime tax. You don't own your home. Okay, I don't care who's in here. You do not own your home. If you don't pay your taxes, your home gets taken away from you. Okay, so you don't own your home. I own Bitcoin. Like, nobody can take it away from me. They might put a tax on it, but they can't take it from me. Apartment dwellings, like, you know, for guys that really know how to run and operate an apartment building, I think that's cool. Great source of diversity. I own a lot of different things. It's not just Bitcoin, but I don't. Well, this is what I don't own. I own 2 cars. I don't own Ferraris, and I don't. You know, I own a part of a plane, and that plane produces something for me. Yeah. Much more so than the house. If I throw a party at my house, no one walks into my house and goes, "Hey, do you rent this or do you own it?" Like, really? Are you that asshole? Yeah. Like, who cares, right? If I go out on a date, nobody cares if I rent it or own it. I mean, what? I'm more special because I have debt? So, you know, the house, you got to fix the yard, you got to fix the plumbing, you got to clean it, you got to paint it. Those suck. For an entrepreneur like you, why do you want to take your time and energy and deploy it into something that might give you a 5 or 6% return, if you're lucky, that can be built over and over and over and over again? So I just don't see the long-term utility of owning a home for almost anyone, man, unless you just have so much excess cash.
Yeah, I mean, that's contrary to a lot of advice that financial advisors, investors give entrepreneurs. What is your advice?
Well, we might have been lied to, my friend.
Yeah, we may have. And things change, you know. A home might not be the investment that it was 10, 20 years ago.
It may have never. I'm going to challenge that it never was. That this was a pitch by banks in the 50s to get people addicted to debt.
What about the tax breaks? We saved almost $250,000 on a cost segregation analysis when we bought this building. Do you think there's any benefit to businesses or people utilizing real estate for the tax benefits?
Well, I think from the viewpoint on compounding and being able to 1031 it and roll. Most people don't 1031 their homes. Yeah. Owning your own building. I mean, I've got an investment with a guy that makes $70 million a year of EBITDA, and he's like, dude, I have to own my own building. Okay, his religion as a human being is like, I have to own everything. I don't want anybody to take anything from me. That's cool, but I don't. I don't think everyone takes into account everything that went into that building. Yeah. I'm pretty sure maintenance just kind of gets like, oh, yeah, but yep. No. If you would have been renting, you would not have had that maintenance.
Right. It's a pain in the butt for sure.
Well, absolutely. So I'm sure there's some tax consequences that I don't know about for owning real estate. I know the 1031 is a compounding
Yep.
opportunity that you would not, if it wasn't there, apartments probably wouldn't, that type of real estate probably wouldn't be that attractive. As someone, like, I will not invest in any company that requires, or any industry that requires a subsidy. I just refuse to do it. I won't do solar. Like, if you can't stand on your own 2 feet and you're expecting a subsidy from a government that I'm sitting here complaining is already broke, like, I'm being so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, dude, how can like, we can't support this war in Ukraine. It irritates me to no end. Okay. Like, why are we doing this? We have places in Tampa that, like, the kids have zero education.
That drives me nuts too.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it is.
You have a school system that no one's putting any time into digital assets, AI, blockchain. They're teaching these, hey, you can't use ChatGPT. You're saying the same thing that you said about a calculator, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, now every kid has a phone on their desk. You're allowing them to text while they're in school. When they are in school, you do the COVID bullshit on them and then send them back home to their parents. I mean, we are whipsawing people. Like, I have lost faith in almost everything that I grew up wanting to believe in.
All you can do is focus on yourself, right? Amass wealth and direct it in whatever direction you see fit. I mean, you're not going to keep your money from Uncle Sam forever, unfortunately.
No, and the question then is, hey, what is wealth?
Yeah.
Because I actually think that connecting with other human beings on a common thesis and having a legitimate debate, an open debate where, like, I will vote for Donald Trump. Okay, you can immediately hate me if you want, but maybe you ought to listen to why. Okay, and my why is, in my lifetime, I've seen at least 100 years. I mean, I saw John F. Kennedy's head blown off when I was 5 years old. I thought he was a pretty cool cat. Now, his dad was a little naughty. Dude, my family's probably been naughty. I bet your family's been naughty, and I bet this nice lady had, a couple of hoes in her background too. I mean, come on, right? We're not perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, like, my grandfather was probably, part of organized crime. I mean, he came over from Sicily on the boat. So does that make me a bad person? No. So I've seen close to 100 years of professional politicians do nothing but Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, blow this guy up, Syria, Yemen, crude oil. Hey, let's keep crude oil prices down. I would rather pay $500 a barrel of crude oil and $15 a gallon of gasoline all day long. Okay, I would love that, actually. And then we'll see a lot less people driving to 7-Eleven to pick up a pack of cigarettes, or a loaf of bread. And it's like, whoa, not one of you people in this building turn off your computer at night. No one turns off their laptop. Can't possibly turn off your TVs at source. Yeah. Okay? The UK, if all the TVs were unplugged at source, unplug them in the UK, that's 72 million people in the United Kingdom. If you unplugged every TV in the United Kingdom that we just have to have because we're such addicted convenience freaks, have to have it right this second, right? You would literally release 500 megawatt coal-fired power station. Okay, just because of
it's economics for you, though.
Yeah,
if there's a need for it, people will provide.
Yeah. Well, but if you drive prices up,
right?
What my point is, don't
demand.
complain to me about BTC and the energy use until we stop wasting the massive amounts of energy, which includes not turning your laptop off at night. Right? That tells me energy is too cheap. If it was priced correctly, we turn everything off for sure.
You mentioned your grandfather came over here from Sicily. Now, you and your twin brother, Grant, very interesting, seems dynamic. They raised 2 serial entrepreneurs. Grandparents were immigrants. There's a lot of conversation now about raising kids, what they're growing up with. What do you think the secret was for you and Grant's success growing up? How did you guys become two twin serial entrepreneurs? You do not see that every day.
Freaky, man. I know it's
Freaky.
It is really freaky. You know, we're not the Winklevoss brothers either. They hang out with each other. Like, we took extremely different. I think that's the really interesting piece. Our pathways were really, really different. I think he left home when he was 27 or 28, similar to what they're doing now. I mean, Grant was just a little confused. I had already made a shitload of money. I mean, he used to call me up and go, "I hate you, man. You make so much money for working for this big company, and I'm having to grind." It seems like it's worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah. You were making money before Grant was.
Oh, long before, man. I mean, I was done at 40.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I was so done at 40. But I took a monster risk, man. I took risk he didn't take. I mean, I went to work for a startup when I was 27. Grant's never liked working for anybody. I love working for people. Most people think, hey, you've been building business your whole life. I spent 17 years with one company. Loved every second of it. Loved having bosses. Liked the team. I'm a difficult guy sometimes to work with because when I think I'm right, I will absolutely push it out there. Those guys allowed me to do things that I could never have done on my own. I was trading $5 billion a year in revenue in the United Kingdom by myself. I mean, you need support, right? It became a public company. I couldn't have done that. We were a unicorn. By the time I was 37, we were a unicorn. We didn't even know what that word meant, man. We thought it had something to do with fairies and, rainbows. So you know what I think? I think that our dad dying was a major, significant driver and then more importantly, and this could be very controversial for my family, but no alpha dogs showed up. And I really hold my family a little responsible. Most of them are dead now. No uncles showed up. And I'm sure this is happening in many, many, many other families. The uncles who were good Italian people should have shown up, and they didn't. Now, Grant and I were a lot. Granted, we were a lot.
Can imagine.
Just a lot of horsepower, right? And like today, they would have put us both on drugs.
Yeah.
For sure, they would have knocked us out. They tried to put Grant on drugs back then. Then my brother died. He was 25. We were 20. I mean, instant in an oil explosion. I saw my mom really scared all the time. So I think there's something there that maybe business gave us something, a game to play.
Right.
And if you've ever met really, really smart people, I mean, I know a lot of really, really smart people. They're stupid. And they're stupid because the game they're playing isn't up to their ability. I think that has kept me out of a lot of trouble. As I get older, now people are going, hey, you can calm down. I'm like, yeah, but if I calm down, I might get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Because I get bored. But I don't really know. It must be some chip on the shoulder. I think we probably both have a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. We didn't go to a great school. I mean, I've competed with every major, school I know.
Yeah.
Whether it's Harvard, MIT, this guy, that guy. And at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters what school you went to.
Right.
Or what you learned. It's like one thing he and I do really well, I probably do one thing better than I pull the trigger so fucking fast. It's unbelievable.
It's a great entrepreneur
I do not need massive amounts of time to study something. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. He produces so much front-end energy that it's really explosive. And I think that always outshines the guy that came from MIT that might just be thinking too much. I mean, Node 40 has there's so many geniuses in Node 40.
Yeah.
I actually like working with these really smart people, especially if their egos aren't all twisted out, because they can't do what I do. Okay, like if this was a war, like if if somebody said, okay, we have a war right now, like I would be the guy to go, dude. I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to go to the
All
front,
action.
dude. Bring me. I want to see what it's like, right?
Yeah.
And I know I might get clocked.
Yeah.
But I would rather be there than in the back. I mean, in the back, and you shouldn't be ashamed if you're in the back. It's your place in this lifetime. Like a guy like me needs a lot of people in the back.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and there are times when, now this is the downside of that. There are times when I need to step away.
Mm-hmm.
Like I become so much. Like I am awesome with the blank canvas. Once it gets to about 100 people, 200 people.
Yep. Get the right people in place and step out of the way.
Totally, man.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
I see so many CEOs, founders, they stay in that position way, way too long.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no shame in going, hey, I need Bob to come in here now. This is not my deal. I'm not even having fun doing it.
Right.
But they won't hold on to it for ego, right?
Do you think brotherly and even twinly competition played any role? Obviously, you started off strong, making money. Maybe Grant saw you as his twin, his competition, and that maybe inspired and motivated him to go after it. Do you think that played any role, and does it play any role now?
You know, it's funny. I've been asked that question 3 times in my whole life. And about 7, 8 months ago, I was at a show one day, and a guy looked at me and said, hey, what's it like being in Grant's shadow? And I had never, like honestly, never even thought about that there was a shadow.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Because he deals with consumers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he deals with the large population. I want to deal with Ernst & Young and Goldman Sachs and Visa. I don't have any interest in dealing with Joe Consumer. I don't want Joe Consumer to walk up to me and, hey, sign my book and you're great. Like, that bothers me because I think the ego is really dangerous, and I don't see anyone that can't get sucked in by it. So you'd have to ask Grant on his. I have never felt that I was competing with Grant. I felt like I was competing with everybody else.
Yeah.
Like Grant wasn't in my space. It wasn't like we were. Now, I thought I was competing with him when he was dating that beautiful redhead when he was 17. But that's come and gone, right? It's not like we don't do the same kind of business. So
right. It is very different industries.
Yeah.
And that may explain, and correct me if I'm wrong, he has a large social media presence. You don't have an Instagram.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be beneficial in your field, to be not on social media?
There are some things that I won't support because I just don't believe in them.
What are some of those things?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, I wouldn't own anything that Mark Zuckerberg has ever touched. I don't like the guy. I don't believe in his ethos. I think when you steal something from somebody, you already started on the slippery slope. I don't think Facebook's done anything to help this world. And I don't want to make a bunch of money, okay? I want to help people. I don't, oh, you're really rich. Who cares?
Right. After a point, what does it matter?
At any point, okay? Because I know people that don't have $12, and they are better human beings than the guy that's got $12 billion. They're much better human beings. They're going to show up when I ask them to, when I need them. So, I just think that I'm interested in doing stuff, and it gets me in trouble. Okay, like I have a business in Clearwater that I've just exited, but I'm in trouble. I got people, saying I've done, the FTC and other people. Hey, you guys have okay, we got big, man. That's what happened. We got big, and we've actually been making some points about the payments industry that are really messed up. Yeah. Where you have regulators and card schemes wanting to treat one merchant differently than a different merchant. I mean, that's discrimination, okay? And if you don't want a merchant selling XYZ, make it illegal. Don't give it a merchant category code. You can't treat a guy selling vape, which I don't believe in vapes. I think they're probably bad. But you can't treat a guy selling vapes, guns, or cigarettes differently than you treat the guy selling polo shirt.
Right.
The consumer's the same. The credit card rails are the same. The dispute process is the same. What, you're going to give, a guy that gets a speeding ticket a completely different set of rules than the guy that has no speeding ticket. Even if I get a speeding ticket and I prove that it was not me, I don't pay insurance premiums forever. It doesn't follow me forever. In the payments industry, you get a chargeback that's not yours, it's still going to count against you for life. Okay, like it's a statistic, whether it's been reversed or not. So, and that is what's going to change through blockchain. See, these are the holes that Bitcoin and blockchain, not so much Bitcoin, but blockchain is going to solve. And the bigger these gaps are in this fiat world, crypto, digital assets are going to fill this big gap. These are gaps that can't be fixed. They were built about 70 years ago. I mean, people forget the entire payment industry was built in the 70s on a good day. On a good day, okay? A lot of it started on Cobalt. So you barely have anybody even writing Cobalt today. So it's, and you have a lot of people in the food chain. It's an entire industry now that most of these are not really banks. They're vendors. Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, they're banks. They're super banks. And I think we're going to end up with like 8 super banks. And then everyone else, including the card schemes, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, these are vendors, guys. They're not banks. They're literally answering telephone calls and sending a bill to somebody. But they're not banks that are holding currencies and able to trade. There's a whole chain of that vendor business. Chargebacks 911 wouldn't even have a business if the system worked correctly.
And Chargebacks 911 is your credit card fraud company.
Yeah,
that's correct.
That's the one we started in 2012. It's been an unbelievable business.
Let's go into that for a second. I'd love to ask some entrepreneur to entrepreneur questions about how to scale businesses, some of the mistakes that you've made. But first, I'd love to dive into some of your resume as an entrepreneur. Sure. I know you started with Dynergy. Is that pronounced correctly? Dynergy.
Yeah, they went out of their way to make that work hard.
Which became a Fortune 30 company. You were a unicorn, 600 employees. You became the CEO of that company, and then went off to do some other very impressive things. What is your resume as an entrepreneur?
Started in the oil and gas business. Went to, when I was 21, worked for a pipeline company, well-known pipeline company, big name. Hated it. And I hated it because when I was 7, I went and saw my dad. He was a stockbroker. And I walked in, man, his office looked like it was 1,000 million square feet big.
Yeah.
And they had these little, you guys are too young, but they had little ticker tapes. You've probably seen them on TV, but on IBM stock and General Electric. I love my dad so much. And I was like, oh, wow. Every kid does, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, my dad runs the world. He is like captain of the universe, man. And, you know, then you read Superman books, and I loved. So who doesn't want to be a hero, right? A superhero, that guy that's, the baseball player.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, right? So when I got into business, I realized immediately that my boss, I can remember these people's names, okay? It was so scary to me that I had 3 layers of bosses that had no clue, dude. They had no clue whatsoever. And I could not believe at 24 years old, I'm like, oh my God, I am going to spend the next 50 years of my life working with a bunch of idiots. And it wasn't that I was so smart, but I was like, these people don't like, it was so clear to me. So the bureaucracy, like, what did that have to do with making money or doing deals? So I went to work there was a company called Natural Gas Clearinghouse. I was 26 at the time. I was making $70,000 a year. There had been a change in the energy space. I have been extremely lucky. Every industry I go to, I move into them.
Right.
But this one, they were undergoing a regulatory transformation, monster transformation that would occur, and where they worth the audience knowing, literally a regulator shows up one day and just says, anyone that's ever bought natural gas on a long-term contract, y'all can all say, blow off. Basically abrogate the contract. These are billion-dollar contracts. DuPont buying from United Gas Pipeline, 30-year contract. You don't have to do it anymore. And what the government realized, hey, look, these utilities, like, they took advantage of the consumer. They're selling long-dated products on CPI inflators. There's just no incentive for anybody to become efficient. So I went to work for Natural Gas Clearinghouse, begged to get a job, would have worked for zero. I've gotten 2 jobs in my life. One in 1987 at Natural Gas Clearinghouse. They almost fired me 3 times, but because I asked for so little money, they couldn't get rid of me. And then the other time was in 2008, when everybody on the planet's being pushed out of Wall Street. I got a job with ArcLight Capital because I was willing to go to work for free.
Yeah.
So I knew, and this is the risk piece of me that I think my brother and I are really different. I can tell you like 13 stories that are hilarious, but that I follow this like I am not going to go to work for someone that I will never do anything. This is my big bitch about this FTC filing. I have done everything I possibly could my whole life not to be naughty. I could have made $1 billion by importing Russian gas. I knew everyone there. I mean, I've never done any of that. And so it really irritates me when you build a great business in America and then they start bitching. I'm sure a competitor's bitching or something, or they just grossly misunderstand.
Yes.
So just taking the risk, started at Clearinghouse, loved it. 2.5 years later, I asked to go to London. I had an idea, and they laughed at me. There was 600 people then. I joined, there was 12. So in 3 years, we go from 12 to 600 people. Rules start showing up, you got to dress a certain way. I'm like, oh, shit, man, not again. It's coming again. So I raised my hand and said, hey, can I go to London? They laughed with my accent. London, British Gas bought a percentage of our company in the U.S. Funny story, they went to 599 other employees in that company to see who would go to London. No one. Americans are horrible.
Yeah.
Okay? Americans do not like to get away from the cat daddy.
Yeah.
The central widget. For me, I was like, should I get out of here, go build my own thing or fail? I went there on a 6-month assignment. In my mind, I decided I would never come back to this company because I knew that U.S. companies don't do well of reintegrating somebody that's left the U.S. So I went with the assumption of burn the bridge, you're never coming back here. That business, we formed something called Accord Energy with British Gas, did a joint venture with them, told them we were going to make $1 million, didn't make any money for 1.5 years, didn't even put a trade on. They started teasing me because I hadn't put a trade on. About 2 years later, we sold the company for 140 million pounds. That's about $220 million. After we'd made 140 million pounds on about 5 different trades. We sold that, and then my team in 1997, I think, said, hey, you want to do this again? And I was exhausted, man. I was 38, maybe 37, burned through a marriage that was probably already, destined to go by the wayside. And I couldn't say no to him. And we built, in 97, I had 1 employee. In 2002, we had 600 people working in the UK. I bought all of the natural gas storage in the entire country over a lunch table.
Wow.
Talk about being, really, this was a country that the only thing that we had in common was kind of the language.
Yeah. What a deal.
And, but at around 2001, I started predicting, I think this whole party's over. Mark to market has gone too far. You know exactly what's happening in the digital asset space. Mark-to-market accounting is doing the same thing. It's pretty much mark-to-market accounting, what we're doing here in digital assets, making up prices. So I called my bosses up one day, sold every drop of stock I had.
Wow.
Like the entire thing that was in the money, I'd never sold a penny of stock, ever. And said, look, you guys got 6 months. I'm done, man. I'm having headaches every day. Yeah, I run all of Europe. Yeah, ExxonMobil's got to call me. But I'm not here because I'm having fun anymore. I'm here because I make $7 million a year, and it's an ego play.
Right.
And I had the guts at 41 to go, I'm not going to do this for money and ego. And I had met a man, sorry for going on so long, but I had met a man who took 7 years off of his life, and he was the CEO of the biggest company in Europe. I was like, dude, now that's a career. Okay, comes into business, 37, leaves the business for 6 years, goes sailing around the world, and then comes back and becomes the CEO of one of the biggest energy companies in the world. That's the way to have a career.
Yeah, that's cool.
The other stories, you got to get on the grind, the 401k. I'm like, I'm done. Made that decision, moved back to the United States 6 months later. I watched the price of Dynegy stock go to 60 cents. 60 cents. I sold it $57.
Jesus.
Okay, like every drop.
So predicting and timing might be a little bit of a strength of yours.
Like how can you build businesses and make these predictions and ethos of, hey, here's a great business, but not also be aware these cycles, like I'm going to die one day. Now, this body is going to die one day. I don't think I'm going to die, but
we'll upload you.
Yeah, the body's going to go away. IBM's going to go away one day. I think they're probably already done. General Electric's no longer even an industry comment. Their whole industries collapse over time because technology shows up and it makes them antiquated and no longer relevant to a marketplace. And that's what happens in every market. To not treat your career that way, whoa. And the message to me is, hey, if I was anyone that owned a company, owned shares in a company, or worked for a company that came from the old world, pre-20th century, 21st century, what I call the analog world, if you cannot describe to me, your spouse, or anyone else exactly what you do and your company does and the value that it brings in 2 sentences, you should start looking for another job.
Yeah.
Really, okay? Because the digital world is going to expose you. The digital world is going to expose all the inefficiencies in the pre-21st century world, which was very, very opaque, man.
Do you have any advice for people to have that type of predictive ability? Obviously, I think you being decisive and being able to take action on those instincts are critical for you to be able to exit things at the right time, predict where the economy's going. Is all of that instinct, or is there any formula that you follow or that other people can follow?
Well, now for me, it's a formula. Like I see a lot of people getting all really whacked out over this whole SEC and what's the United States doing. First off, like U.S., you guys do whatever you want. You're 12% of this business. It doesn't matter, okay? Like, it'll just move. If necessary, I'll move. My position is now large enough to go, I'll buy a boat, okay? I can just get on a yacht and do international waters for 3 or 4 years until you guys figure out if you're going to nuke each other or not. Right. It's a pattern for me now to listen to and trust. That trust is, oh, wow, I've seen this in energy. Look, we commoditized to the half hour natural gas and electricity. These are the most two vital commodities on the planet. It defines whether you live in a first world, second world, or third world nation.
Yes.
Go to Puerto Rico, third world nation. Why? Because they don't have massive amounts of energy at any price. Okay, like he who has the most energy wins the war. So the response from legacy players, it's the same response we're seeing from the credit card industry and the regulators, is, I need to hold on. The world's changing. I need to stick my, no,
Right.
dude, you need to let go.
Okay? Scary to jump ship after building something for so many years.
You're actually then going to become the devil, right? To all the people that you leave, and nobody wants you to leave because you're like, oh, you're saying my industry is going to collapse. Look, I think careers are no longer what they used to be. They're not. I don't even think the 70-year career ever fit anyone. Okay, like if you go look back, it's not worked. I don't just believe things that we all believe. Like I walked in here and went, hey, you should not own a house. She shouldn't own one, and I shouldn't own one.
Yeah.
And these are the reasons why. Well, that really goes against about 75 years of us being pitched the white picket fence, man. We got pitched this on TV in black and white. And your parents will remember, oh, yeah, the white picket fence and the little dog you did. But see, that's an image in your mind of what success is. Right? Where the image of my success is freedom, ability to communicate the way I want to. I mean, I don't know this lady here, but like I can already tell, hey, she likes me because she's like, dude, this makes sense. Like
she's cool.
This guy works. This guy works in spaces he wants to work in. He's not willing to go get, like, I'm not going to just do anything for money.
Yeah.
So I think, I study markets really well. I love I have this bit of a reputation for like putting people on a spot. Like if you have a view, I'll be like, you want to bet $1,000 on it, or 10,000 or 50,000, right? And it's not like, oh, I'm throwing a bunch of money around. I'm trying to figure out, dude, how sure are you?
Right.
Okay, because like I'm raising money for Node 40 again, and it should be very clear to everyone. There's no chance of me letting Node 40 go down.
Yep.
Okay, like I don't necessarily need to raise the money. I would like to have some partners with me, but like I'm in on the deal. It's not. There's not going to be and this is what Grant and I do really well. We go all in, not necessarily all in on a gambling perspective. We're probably not aggressive gamblers. I'm probably much more of a speculator than he is.
Yeah.
But speculation for me is not gambling. Speculation is a highly educated wager made on a thesis that one has.
Yes.
And if you're not willing to put any money, and this is what bugs me about big corporate, most of the people that are making $500,000, $3 million, $8 million, whatever, they won't even bet their own wallet. Okay, it's like they'll take the paycheck, but they won't bet part of their career. They just keep getting the options. They reprice the options. That's a little irritating to me, but that's the real world. So to me, study a market. Do I have any value to bring? Like I've never discovered a marketplace that didn't need something.
Right.
Right. And if like I happen to know what,
how are you going to sell the picks?
Yeah. Or first off, hey, what's needed?
Yeah.
I think, like the credit card business, that business is a $400, $500 million business.
Yeah.
That was an industry that's 35 years old, man. Like people think I go into that was a 35-year-old industry that had become so lazy. There's 62,000 people that get paid to manage disputes. Every one of them are amateurs except for about 6. Every one of them, okay? I had a guy named Peter Bailey at Visa once. I asked him this question: how many experts are there in the disputes business around the world? He said 35.
Jesus.
My immediate response, hey, Monica, let's hire 17 of them.
Yeah.
I'll hire $7 million, takes 17 of these people out. They have all the intellectual capital. Take them all out. We'll get all the business.
Yeah, that's a gap in the market if I've ever heard of one.
That's what I do. Yeah. I exploit gaps. In fact, I wouldn't even use the word exploit. I actually look for big monster gaps that other people might not see and fill them.
Go all in attacking that gap.
Fill it with a service, man. That's a good, valuable service. So.
Afraid of a good entrepreneur. I hope people are taking notes right now.
Yep.
Gary, before we jump into Node 40 and talk a little bit about that, I was very impressed that you didn't go to a fancy college. You didn't have a fancy upbringing, a lot of connections, and you were still.
I gotta stop it.
Cool.
Sorry. Yep, we're good.
Cool. All right, Gary, before we dive into Node 40, you said something that really impressed me, so I'd love to dig a little deeper into that. You didn't go to a fancy college, you didn't have a fancy upbringing, but you were able to climb the corporate ladder at Dynergy to become CEO of a company with 600 employees. A lot of people listening might be in your camp. They like working for somebody. They like to exploit those opportunities and move up and make a career out of themselves. What are your secrets to moving up the corporate ladder and becoming a CEO of a major corporation like that?
Well, first off, let me be clear. I became the CEO and president of Dynergy Europe, which was a subsidiary of the U.S. Army. That was my way of protecting my expertise. I saw Dynergy getting really big. I saw Steve Bergstrom was one of my few mentors and one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life. These guys were not easy to work with, okay? When I say they were great mentors, does not mean that we were all dilly-dally, hanging out, drinking beers, looking at anything in common. I mean, I didn't do anything with these guys at night. They weren't my friends. We were very, very much like a military operation. And that's the way I look at almost all business. Let me be clear. I did not say business is war. I said I look at business like a military operation, okay? I don't know how people get that confused.
Right.
One of the greatest things about being a military, he who defines who is a great military expert is there's a knowledge here about situational awareness. He who has the greatest situational awareness wins the game. Well, that's true of your career too. So as the company's getting bigger and bigger, then I start seeing, big heavyweights coming in. He's the new CEO now. He wouldn't last. He was a complete sexual predator. But I'm starting to see these guys come in and go, oh, I'm going to get killed here.
Yeah.
And the 14 people who were all my age were above me because I was that 12th guy, not the 11th guy. I was like, okay, these guys are like 37. I'm not going anywhere. Where can I go to stick my neck out? See, I like having, when I was a little boy, about 6 years old, 7 years old, I got to be in the ninth inning. In the ninth inning, where it's 3-2, it's the second. I think we've got 2 outs. We're down 1, and I'm going to the plate.
Yeah.
And dude, I loved it. Some people get crushed under it. For some reason, at 6 years old, it was like being hit with a bong and going, dude, this is your opportunity to shine. And I hit the ball.
Yeah.
And so I like being that guy. I was smart enough to go, hey, I want to go to London. Okay, I need to start doing some stuff that's a little different. Nobody else went. Nobody wanted to go. Nobody wanted to take the risk. And I went and didn't come back. And amazingly, I am one of the few guys that actually exited that company.
Yeah.
But it was because I was willing to push out and get out of my comfort zone. I get bored after it becomes pretty systematic of what's going to happen. I get a little bored, and I need something really engaging. You're nodding. I need something really engaging to keep me really plugged in.
Yeah, it's the heart of an entrepreneur. I'm the same way, and I think you've obviously got the same thing. If you start to get repetitive in your daily tasks, I get bored, and I need to find something to stir the pot. Now, it seems a little bit risky, right? You took on a project that you didn't quite know how it was going to go, but a lot of upside opportunity, just like the business ventures that you have gone into.
Well, and you're not walking away. I don't hear you saying, hey, you just walked away. I mean, I handed an entire Western European energy business to someone.
Yeah.
And this was the way we trained. I raised my hand. They said, okay, we're sending him. Hey, Bob, you're filling in Gary. Spend 3 hours with Gary, and it's yours. We didn't do this whole, let me hand it over and introduce you to all the clients. Like, Bob's running the Western Division now. Bob gets to go meet all the players. Gary's in the UK. Nobody's introducing me to anything.
Threw you in the deep end and swim.
I mean, it's the best way to teach somebody.
Yeah, that's how you learn fast.
Yep. And you figure out who's going to make it or not very, very quickly. So that I don't think anything I've done has been exceedingly risky. I think had I not followed my instincts, I would be hating myself today.
Yeah.
And I would probably still be getting a 401k from some company. And I think people that actually dislike me in these industries, and I have people that dislike me because I go in industries, I really spank them pretty. The more rigid they are, the more I'll spank them. Those people that end up not liking me don't really dislike me for what I'm doing. They dislike me because I was able and willing to do something they saw, and they just could not pull the trigger. And that is so, now as an older guy, I'm like, Bob, at Marathon, you don't dislike me, dude. You dislike yourself, okay?
Right.
Because I made a shitload of money, and you're still working there because you have to. And they had to see this. I mean, the chargeback, very good example, okay? Like, there's 35,000 people that saw this problem.
Yeah.
And did not see or didn't have the gumption to create a solution and build a business around it.
It sounds like the superpower is identifying those gaps, seeing the macroeconomic conditions, where things are going, taking those calculated risks, like going to Europe or joining a company like Denergy, and then taking massive action to make sure that risk pays off.
Yeah. I
Very
mean,
good.
I think one of the biggest challenges for people, they don't find the right platform.
Yeah.
They just don't get into the right platform, or they become the CEO or the COO, or it's just not the right platform for them, and they stay in it too long instead of saying, look, I'll work for free for the right platform.
Yeah. Very good. Let's talk about Node 40, your most recent investment in the startup tech finance space. I know you recently put a decent amount of money into the company, and you've been going all into it. And we started off talking a little bit about crypto, but talk to me about Node 40. Why Node 40? What problem is it going to solve? And I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey since investing in this company.
Well, I knew that I starting in 16, I started playing around with the digital world. In 2019 or 20, I started getting much more interested in blockchain. Began seeing many of the problems that the financial industry was having, and correlated that blockchain would solve a lot of these problems, not Bitcoin, but blockchain itself would solve a lot of problems around efficiencies and scale, transparency. It irritates me to no end that most of the companies I deal with are public companies, yet obtaining information on this marketplace is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't make any sense to me that you could have the credit card industry that's not extremely transparent. Like, I would like to see the fees, fines, and income streams made from some of these card schemes, just from problems that shouldn't even exist, okay? That I have whole businesses around. I think it's in the billions and billions of dollars, and it's hammering Joe Consumer. But I'm not suggesting anything nefarious is being done. All I'm saying is that we built an industry when there were only horses and buggies.
Yeah.
Okay? There weren't any Ferraris. So now you have Ferrari, what do you do? Same thing with, hey, what do you have? The Ford car. Mark told me the other day, he's like, there was a guy with a red flag had to stand in front of the cars to tell people, hey, there's a car coming, in the old days, right? That doesn't happen anymore. There weren't any seat belts, no rails.
Right. They figure it out as they go.
So in studying that, I had accumulated a very large position in BTC and Ethereum. I was wanting to look at, hey, is there a way for me to fix all the mistakes I had ever made in all my businesses? Whether it was governance, which is a big thing of mine. You wouldn't expect me to be a governance guy, but I am. Whether it's like, I looked at investment the other day and I asked one question, what is y'all's relationship? And they said, hey, we just got pregnant. I'm like, I'm out. Like, I will not invest in a husband and wife team.
Yeah.
Because you can't do governance. I know that from a fact. I mean, it's like I've probably blown $500 million over being married too long to the same person involved in the business and not bringing in an outsider. How do you tell your wife, hey, look, price that deal at $12 million, which I'm great at. I am great at pricing things. Price it at $12 million, not 11.9, $12 million, and your wife does a deal for $6. What are you gonna do? You gonna fire? You're gonna not sleep with her for a week? Well, that's already probably happened. So you're not gonna go out and start cheating on her because that is not governance. See, governance is, hey, there's a board, people. So there was a lot of things, like it took me too long to exit a deal once.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down, as I do every time I'm starting a new part of my life, any entrepreneur, write, inventory yourself. And I said, look, if I ever get involved in another business, these are the requirements. And the requirements was I'm going to meet some technologists. I'm not one. I don't really care too much about doing due diligence on technology for a very logical reason. The technology that you bring to me today and show me will be irrelevant tomorrow morning. So why would I do a monster amount of due diligence? If I know there's a monster addressable market, if I know that there's a problem, okay, in the digital asset world, I was going through an extremely difficult divorce. Had lost 76% of the asset value in that family around digital assets, and was going to get grilled over why I was investing in Bitcoin. Like, right, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
The Node 40 business gave me some clarity that allowed me to walk into 9 lawyers one afternoon and a judge in a business that I had bought during the divorce. Everybody said, don't buy anything in the divorce. I looked at my lawyers and this is an awesome deal. I am going to buy this company. And what did I do? I had Bitcoin and Ethereum volatility. I had X millions of dollars sitting there. I was able to move crypto to Node 40, a enterprise business that I removed all my commodity risk, up and down risk, for extension risk. How long will it take me to impregnate the market, for lack of a better word, with the particular solution that we have? So, and I'm really good at building these businesses. I'm much better at building these businesses than I am in picking the bottoms and the tops. I'm not a trader, okay? Like, I traded one of the largest energy books in the world for 20 years of my life. I don't ever want to do it again. It's out of me. I don't need to trade. It's really a scary business to be in. It's all consuming. You will not have a wife. You will not have a family. You will not be a good daddy. You're not going to be hanging around really great people. It's not built for many people. And I see all these guys speculating on these tokens. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're hiding behind a computer screen, looking at these charts, and you're already out of money.
Yeah.
So, like, you're just wasting. Why don't you go work for McDonald's, get a paycheck?
They are now.
And then the excess money that you get from that paycheck, you buy Bitcoin and DCA into Bitcoin, and you'll be 20% up every year, year on year, and you'll be very, very happy. And one day you're going to be really rich. So Node 40 brought me 2 technologists. In order for me, they were already going to get funded. I met them when they were being funded. I didn't think they had enough funding. I met the owners. Their egos were really proper. They knew that they did not know how to do certain things. And my particular skills matched everything they didn't have. Strategy, commercials, and my ask was, hey, I'll do a lot more than the angel investors are going to do, but I have to have all control over all the commercials. They were like, awesome. Okay, because what I found is most founders underprice their products. They underprice and undervalue who they are and what they're doing. They don't know how to structure contracts, and they don't know how to target the customer. The first thing I was able to do once I obtained that type of control in the investment was, how many customers do we have? 2,000. What's the average ticket? $150. Send them all a notice and tell them it's $2,000 tomorrow morning. We're going to lose 97% of our customers. Awesome. Good. We'll make more money tomorrow than we made yesterday. I'm not a consumer guy. Don't want any consumers. See you later. I need professional guys pay me 10 or 15, 20 grand a year, maybe more. And if we don't have a tool that does that, then I made the wrong investment. But these guys were sitting on an institutional grade. See, what they didn't know, everyone that competes with them were accounting people. And these guys were traders. So they were trading their own book in New York with a bunch of digital tokens, and they had no clue what their cost base was. And the tax man was knocking on the door.
Yep.
And they were like, oh, my God. So they were computer scientists. They said, hey, we can figure this out. It's on the chain. And they built a monster solution that no one has. All the other accounting firms were like, hey, we're going to expand our accounting business. Let's go get a bunch of $100 clients. Like, okay, yeah, there's 40 million players out there that pay you $100, but they have 12 Dogecoins.
Right.
Okay, that's not my business.
You're an enterprise business, B2B.
Total institutional, okay? I like, who are our customers? Top 200 accounting firms. The IRS, Interpol, Chainalysis, TRM, Elliptic, MasterCard, Visa, eventually will be.
Massive enterprise clients.
Anyone holding a large, any wealthy guy listening to this, if you have $500,000 in Bitcoin and you're not using an institutional grade solution, you're really, really making a huge mistake. And I can tell you why on another interview if you like. If you are a hodler and you expect to own more than 1 to 10 Bitcoin in that hodl process, you cannot use a cheap little paper solution, okay? There's so many reasons for it. I mean, 20 years from now, you are going to have to defend your position.
Yeah.
If you're truly a hodler, if you're someone giving these coins to your children, you must defend the future. The future will be, there will be a draconian tax man, and he's going to take it all unless you can prove it. And imagine what 500 Bitcoin are going to do, or 50,000 Ethereum are going to do over 20 years. They're going to move, okay, all over the place. Banks, exchanges, in and out. They're going to be swapped. Maybe there'll be lending protocols in the future. I suspect that the banks are going to loan me fiat one day against my Bitcoin position. Who is going to track all this? You're going to lose so much money in this hodl process because you're not remembering, hey, look, you're going to have a tax guy.
Right.
And if you're offshore, it's even worse for you because you're exploiting a 20% tax arb. The problem with the tax arb, every U.S. regulatory body knows where you are and who you are. So you got this target sitting here, right in your temple on both sides of it, and like the audit's coming. Yeah. Anyone holding any sizable position in crypto, the audit is coming. They have a budget now, $55 billion in IRS. That's the Republicans approved it. So we're done now, okay? So you're going to be audited. And look, I think this is one of the greatest opportunities in the history of the world. In the history of the world, 1,000-year event, okay, that we'll never see again. Don't think that people aren't going to try and grab it and take it away from you. So anything I can do, when I think about industries, I think about, like, when COVID was happening, the first thing I thought about, okay, I'm going to buy a compound, slap a fence on it, make sure I have water and food, and my neighbors, I can lock them down, and we're all good to go. In this last hurricane,
yep,
not one of my neighbors left. We're all there as a compound, man.
Risky.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's risky if you're sorted.
Yeah.
See, people say, hey, you're not scared. Yeah, dude, because I'm organized, okay? I've got food, guns, extra energy, and I've got neighbors who I know aren't going to, like, become a problem. They're there. They have, hammers and saws, and we can fix stuff. But I think that's about being prepared, right? Like,
yes.
And if you're an entrepreneur, I can understand if you're working for IBM and you don't think about preparation because you've just basically surrendered your deal and going, hey, I'm the IBM guy, right? I mean, I just hired a guy from Ernst & Young who was let go of Chainalysis. 48-year-old guy comes to work for Node 40, ex-partner of EY. and he's like had 5 job offers. He got laid off by Chainalysis by an era. Chainalysis called me and said, "Hey, hire this guy. He's awesome." And like he had 2 choices: go back into the world of 401k world, which there's no shame in that. I'm not saying there's anything ashamed, but you can't not look at what's going on. Okay, you can't just shirk your responsibility. Like I watched the movie last night about BlackBerry. There's a lot of shareholders that got clocked, and there's more employees that didn't make any money their whole career. They just, it all got wasted. So they stayed in the game too long. Every business has a cycle, just like all the dogs I've ever had, they had a cycle to their life, 7 to 12 years.
I want to think about that.
but everything has a life cycle.
Yes.
It's just the way organisms are, and that means mental constructs. And business is no more than a bunch of people agreeing on a mental construct, and then we put a bunch of regulations after the fact. And that's what everyone needs to understand. There has been never, not one industry on this planet has ever been created where the regulations came first. Not one, okay? Name me one, I'll give you $1 million. There isn't one, okay? They're still introducing rules to the credit card industry today. Yeah. Okay, why? Because they found problems.
Yeah, regulations are there to solve problems, and you can't anticipate the problems.
And much less technology. I mean,
right.
Like they built the payment industry and credit card industry was built assuming that you and I walk into a store, okay, and sign a piece of paper. We are now literally have over half of the sales occurring in an anonymous online marketplace. There's no signature, there's no human beings, and that business was not built for that. Okay, it was built for point of sale, contact, eyeballs, security cameras. No wonder there are 565 million unique disputes every year between Europe and America alone.
It's crazy.
And by the way, dude, this does not happen in China. Okay, we were talking about WeChat earlier. It does not happen. There is no disputes.
There's no disputes in China? Why?
It's a digital world, dude. Well, one, their ethics, they don't do that.
Right.
This is a. You really get me on my. I mean, like Southern California, you can literally walk into Neiman Marcus, steal $900 worth of gear, and there is zero threat that you're going to be policed. Well, if you're doing that, CVS, Walmart, Walgreens, and some other big player have literally said, we're out of Oregon. We have to shut down. Our margins are being clocked.
Yeah, you see it every day now in the news.
And they're calling it shrinkage.
Yeah.
Okay, it's theft. Okay, it's total theft. Literally $900. Gangs are walking into the bang, $900. You walk out, and the cops aren't coming after you. Why can't the cops? Because the governments are broke, and the cops can't go police for a $900 deal when you got a rape going on down the street.
Right.
Okay, I mean that's the problem.
And they're underfunded.
So they're totally underfunded. Okay, when you see these scenarios, you're like, man, I think Bitcoin might be give me a better option.
Yeah.
Because the option I'm looking at looks like good consumers are going to pay for the bad consumers. We won't have any mega options. We will only have 1 or 2 merchants who have zero cost of capital that can fuel all these. Refund rates online are 8%. That used to be a fraud stat. Online, in stores, 2%. It used to be 0.1.
That's nuts.
Okay, you cannot run a business when margins have collapsed for a retailer. You can't increase friction, increase the drag, and then ask the merchant to stay in business. No wonder everybody's going broke. This is going to be a train wreck, okay? Like, you basically are creating an industry that allows the worst to drive the entire marketplace. And the worst are people that are just stealing and not being responsible for the acquisition of their goods and services. 13% of everyone that uses a credit card is inebriated.
Wow. That's an interesting fact. Probably don't remember their transaction, wake up tomorrow.
Yeah. Friday at 11 p.m. at night, okay? Go BART or AI. Go ask Visa or MasterCard. What happens to online, Statista, whoever, what happens to online, remember the retail therapy? What happens at Friday, at 11 p.m. at night to 2 a.m.? What happens to online traffic? It explodes like 38%. I got home at 11. I've had too many. I didn't get stopped by the cops. That's the good news. But I'm lonely. I'm not going to sleep. I didn't really score. Let me go shopping. Okay? And then Monday morning, what the hell is this stuff? So there's a lot of things wrong with the industry. Now, you would not do that in store. Okay? Like think about the difference there. That would not, it might happen in a strip club.
Right.
But, dude, they have rules there.
Yeah.
You don't pay, you're going to get beat up and you're going to leave. But this market, you have a lot. We just have a slip. We've really moved on a slippery slope. When you cannot hold people responsible for walking in a store and taking a purse, there's a problem. And if you don't think that behavior is not becoming a virus with social media, Telegram, with the ability to like set up a chat, send it to 1,000 people. I mean, I can load up 1,000 people on a Twitter space. Me and my brother, 1,000 people on a Twitter space, 1 hour notice, with some really interesting people. Okay, so like no one had ever anticipated when we were building any of these businesses that was a possibility.
Right. It's nuts to watch technology evolve. I'm hopeful the cryptocurrency will fix a lot of the things wrong with our financial system. I'm curious to see what the downstream effects of it are on the dollar and on how we operate and purchase and consume. And then AI brings a whole new dynamic. So very interesting times for sure, but I wouldn't bet against you with your track record of predicting and being in and out of industries at the right time.
Well, you know, there's this conversation about, hey, what's this going to do to the U.S. dollar?
Yeah.
Nothing. This is not like the Bitcoin crypto people. They need to just cool their jets a little bit. You're not going to take over fiat. You don't even want to. Okay, like these worlds have to live together. Okay, you cannot have like Netflix came along, Disney didn't go away.
Right.
ABC didn't go away. Okay, now they're starting to go away.
Blockbuster did.
Yeah, Blockbuster did, but Blockbuster did for sure. But you know, that's a longer story. But you know, Enron did a deal with Blockbuster because they thought that fiber was going to trade on the second. They were right. It's happening right now. They just ran out of money and time. So that's the problem with predicting these markets, you know, especially these venture guys. I thought this was going to be a big part of our conversation is all the people that have raised money. I can tell you who's hurting. Anybody that raised money in 2021 and 22. Okay?
Why are they hurting? Where's the pain?
They raised at valuations that are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's actually Node 40 has the best tech for institutional players, but the way we raise money is not a problem for us. And the way every one of our competitors raise money, it is a monster problem.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my competitors just dropped 40% of all their people.
It's a lot of people.
They raised $250 million, man. In cash.
Just blew it.
Money doesn't solve scaling problems. Okay? Like, people don't, money, Visa cannot buy one more minute of time than I can.
If money doesn't solve scaling problems, why are they having a hard time scaling? What's the bottleneck?
These markets are massive.
Yeah.
Okay? You need adoption. You don't have adoption on Bitcoin. Plus, for all that the legacy guys want to say they're playing in this space, there'll be massive amounts of inertia that's pulling them backwards, going, no, don't do that. The people that are really, really impressing me, Fidelity. Fidelity is one of the oldest financial institutions in the world, 120 years. The woman that's running Fidelity right now, she's all in on digital, man. I mean, if you have a problem with understanding the digital world, read anything that Fidelity's putting together. BNY Mellon is deep in this space, okay? Like, I spent a lot of time on Wall Street, there are some very, very large companies that aren't trading. They're doing what they do in every industry. Put 35 MBAs into a room, afford, your entire building, they'll just put into a digital asset team, and they will study that market for 3 years. They won't worry about missing it or being too late, but when they deploy, they will deploy with great certainty, and they'll deploy as soon as regulations are really, really clear. And if the U.S. creates problems with that clarity, they'll just open the London office or the Hong Kong office or the Dubai office. They won't really care that it's not here. So to me, that's the next step, is to, like, none of this scares me on the regulation front. We should be embracing this. There are a lot of tokens and businesses that should not be here. They are total scams. If you think it's a scam, like, do some more due diligence, okay? And find out how many people, like, what I like is okay, you can read all that stuff, but then go study who's investing in this space. We have the largest exodus from Wall Street that Wall Street's ever seen.
Interesting.
People leaving the financial world, going into blockchain, Bitcoin, AI, and robotics.
Yep.
It's never happened like this in the volume. We're also now seeing accounting professionals move into the digital world. Whoa, because they realize there's a big problem for accounting companies. Not to mention the AI that's getting ready to kick accounting's ass, right? Because accounting should be really easy to AI.
Yep, I think so too. Let me finish with a couple targeted questions that I think the listeners might find helpful. You mentioned that you were invested pretty much primarily in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Obviously, there's a lot of other projects out there. Are you interested in any other projects, the Polkadots, the chain links, or do you try and stick to your guns? And if you are interested in projects, what are they?
Well, I think Node 40 is a project.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need a token. For me, I think issuing tokens to raise money, it doesn't feel right to me, okay? Like, It feels like a security. It smells like a security. It walks like a security. But what's the security? Equity, okay, or some form or shape of equity. I think it's weird that, when I answer, hey, my Node 40 is a great project, I'd like to buy 2 or 3 of these companies and merge them. That'd be a project for me. But when you say project, you really mean token product, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, when did that definition get changed?
Right.
Right? So I'm interested in businesses, not like, I can go down to Tampa and we can just go, we could just do it right here. Okay, let's flip for $500,000. I mean, that's kind of, I think your odds are better if you're just flipping.
Yeah.
The protocol, if you can't explain what your thing's doing, I'm pretty sure you're probably in the wrong deal. Like, I'm only going to invest in something I really can get behind and have a debate on. My hesitation on Ether is that it has one guy sitting at the top.
Right.
Or they take a vote. And I think that one guy is pretty influential. And I don't really know what it does. So if you said, hey, dude, you got to get rid of one of them, I'd get rid of Ether in seconds and move it into BTC. I have not made a non-BTC purchase, and I am a DCA guy. I've been buying, like, all last week. I bought like a crazy guy. I haven't bought anything other than BTC. I have played around with some of these other RAG tools, probably lost $1 million. But the way your users, your audience should look at that is, see, I don't look at losing $1 million. For me, it's education.
Yes.
Nah, okay, I own Chainlink. That was a piece of shit. I own this. That was whatever, right?
Same.
I got wasted.
Yeah.
But the question is, are you buying at these new prices? Because if you're not, like, ooh, I should dump it. I got burned on FTX. I don't even know how much I got. For me, see, it's not like, I assume I'm going to lose money.
You have to be willing to, right, if you're going to play in that space.
Well, no, I actually assume in the early days I'm actually going to lose. I lose money on every first trade. My deal is, like, get it out the way, man. You know, with that brand new car you bought, you bring home.
Yeah.
Like, I get the hammer out. Just go ahead and ding it, man. I want to be controlling on the ding.
There you go.
So I don't think you can show up to a game and you're always making money. I'm okay with paying my dues. If I sit down at a poker table, I have a minimum I have to play with. So, you know, I'm a big boy, and I think learning in the trading business, that's the right attitude. You go in and go, okay, I'm going to get spanked a little bit. It's my investment, but it's not like I'm burning my entire life savings on one trade.
Right. I think that's smart for investors to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll ever find Satoshi? And if they do, what do you think's going to happen to Bitcoin?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't think anything would happen.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin is now too decentralized to hack, including by the U.S. government, the CIA, the DEA, Interpol, and all the other guys. It's too late, man.
Yeah.
If you were going to do it, you should have done it probably 5 or 6 years ago.
It's hard to stop a moving train.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
And I think some of the moving trains in this space now are really big players. Okay?
Yeah.
They're not Mickey Mouse. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity for the U.S. government if it were to look at this correctly.
Yeah. All right. Last question. For listeners who are tuned in right now and trying to figure out where to put their money in this economy, what is your recommendation for investors? Where should they be putting their money right now in this economy?
Well, I'm not an investment advisor, so nothing I say here is, take it with a grain of salt, throw it out the window, do whatever. But first thing I would do is I would ask yourself, how much money have you invested in yourself? Education, learning something. Like, I don't think I do these podcasts very well. I'm all over the place. I probably could have somebody, help me be better. So I think too few people invest in themselves. I don't believe in it. Don't invest in me. Don't invest in Bobby, my brother. Like you're gonna have to solve your own problems.
Yeah.
I'm not a big believer in investing in motivational stuff, but I read a lot, and I do think some motivation is good. So so the first things I do is invest in myself and get rid of anyone in my space that's toxic. Because it doesn't matter how many great decisions you're going to make, dude. If you got toxic problems, people trying to hold you back, which happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I left energy, believe me, no one thought I was doing the right thing. Why? Because they all stayed. When I went into the energy business and stayed at Natural Gas Clearinghouse, all my upstream drilling friends were like, dude, that party's over.
Yeah.
You're not going to. Well, they're all still working. So you have to look at the people around you and go, hey, are these guys supporting my progress, or is my progress actually challenging their thesis, right? Look, I don't like homes. I think homes are overpriced. Commercial real estate's going to seriously impact homes. Me and my brother disagree on this vehemently. I would not be buying commercial real estate today. I think it's like we got a lot of hay to chop through. I would, I'd DCA into BTC.
That's what you're doing.
With a percentage of your position.
Yeah.
DCA. That means every week, every month, whatever that schedule is, $12, $1,200, $12,000, whatever that number is for you, that if it were to go missing, it doesn't change anything. And that really is the way I would look at it. I would look at, hey, do you need that extra car, or could you buy a Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. Do you need that extra holiday? Really, really? So one of the things I really like about this particular industry and this entry point is the excess is now changing. Like a year ago in the BTC conference, and this is what entrepreneurs need to do. Like hey, why do you go to all this stuff? Because I'm observing in part, and I'm meeting a lot of people. But A year before, there was a $10 million party. This year, there was no $10 million party. There were no super yachts, okay, held by FTX with a bunch of girls, okay? Like, there's still a little excess. That's all starting to shrink, okay? Now we're becoming a little bit more mature. My point about, hey, notice who's coming into the space. All the guys with gray hair and no need to work. I have no need to work.
Right.
Why are we so interested in this space? I keep asking.
Good question.
Like, dude, I was talking to Dan Tapiro yesterday. He doesn't need to be doing this, man.
Yeah.
And so why am I doing it? Dude, I get to hang out with guys like Mark Yuska, Dan Tapiro, Raul Paul. I mean, these guys are really smart macro players. In this digital space, there are no closed doors. I meet more people in this industry. This is why I know this industry is going to be fucking explosively great for so many people. The the ability and willingness by all players in this space to meet anyone is like no industry I've ever seen. Took me 3 years to get lunch with ExxonMobil. They were so arrogant. Like, we don't need to meet with you. We don't want traders in our. It's cool. Okay, but at least meet with me. My God. Never could meet Visa's or MasterCard's CEO. Now, they're probably like, he's a punk. Who cares? Okay. Punk that's got, 10 competitors making $70 million, $700 million a year in revenue being generated from 10 companies in an industry we built.
Yep.
35 years after they had created a rule. So there is going to be a lot of we couldn't have done that without the internet, right? So without websites and stuff like that. So, like, I think any legacy player and any player that's sitting on the sidelines looking for a business, you shouldn't have to look that far. There is so much going on that's going to create dominoes to fall that provide opportunities for, and I'm looking for them, man. I'd invest in one tomorrow morning, but it has to outperform my thesis of what Bitcoin will do, and it has to be less risk, as I see it.
How can we support the journey with Node 40? Anything me or the listeners can do?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, look, if you have $500,000 position or more, and/or you are a long-term holder in any of these currencies, but in particular Bitcoin and Ether, do yourself a favor, reach out to me, and understand what we're doing, okay? But you cannot just sit on these coins and pretend like you're going to be okay. Right. They're going to come grab it, and the people around you, you're not the problem. It is the professionals around you. Look, 50% of everyone holding Bitcoin today will go through a divorce. 100% of you people will die. Not to think this through, okay? Like, it's already a big enough grind on those that we leave behind when we die with the IBM distributions and the real estate. If you think that's a train wreck, well, all the work you're doing, you might as well just leave them a bunch of cash or heroin or guns or something they can, like, take title to in a cave, because they're not going to keep the crypto that you gave. They're not going to keep the profits, for sure. All the inheritance is going to go away, and they're probably going to make your kids spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine that, okay? Oh, shit, we had to use 3 Bitcoin just to defend Dad's genius. That's unnecessary, okay? For 15 grand a year, $1,000 a month, dude, you just build the story, okay? Buy a software solution. I think we have the best one. I'll cut you a deal just for being coming through the show, but, like, at least have the meeting. You cannot use a little tiny software product that's not even balancing your position. These positions should balance to the zero, okay? To the zero. And you should be able to hand over a P&L narrative, a full story to your Ernst & Young. Go, this is all my data do, and don't mess with me over it. And there's 1.8 million accounting and tax professionals in the United States, 13,000 firms. None of them went to school on digital assets, okay? They all have this, and I'm really good friends with many of them. Okay, they're wonderful people, but like they don't have the tools. No one saw this market coming.
Right. Well, thank you for offering a discount for my listeners for going into Node 40, and preparation is the ultimate thing to combat fear, as we mentioned. So
For sure.
Node 40 is preparation, so go and get it. Yeah. Gary, where is the best place to get in touch with you?
At Gary Cardone Twitter, Gary Cardone on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people trying to knock me off, so I
saw a couple in my search
Gary
on
Cardone,
social.
Anything else is bull. They're amazing how they do this.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy.
Well, Gary, I appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Yeah,
quite a bit of time. I think we went like 2 hours. It's a lot of fun
man.
meeting you, get to know you, talking about crypto, business, your journey. So I appreciate your time coming in to meet me today, and I hope we get the chance to stay in touch here in St. Pete.
For sure. Thank you, man.
Cool.
Guys, so sorry.